Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Whistle Talk, the short wing edition, the short wing roundtable edition. Right now, we only got one of the guests. We've had a couple of scheduling issues going on with trying to get a couple of other guests on, but got a really great guest for you all today. Before we dive into our topic, though, I just want to remind everybody, hit those like buttons, hit those subscribe buttons. If you're watching on YouTube, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I mean, it's up to you. And just hit me up with any questions or comments. That's what I'm here for. Close that screen out here. So just hit all that stuff. And if you have any questions, find me at MikeDTheReferee@gmail.com or go to the Facebook page. So today we got Mr. Dan McKenna joining us. You guys all know I like keeping the Jersey flavor going. So I got Dan McKenna from New Jersey from the Shore chapter here. Dan also has some experience in a couple of other chapters before settling here in New Jersey. So Dan, thank you for coming on today. How you doing?
Doing well, Mike. Thanks for having me. Long time coming here.
Yeah. I've been trying to get Dan on for a bit, but schedule-wise, Dan's a very busy individual, I know. So Dan, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, and what associations you may have worked for.
Yeah. Originally from the Pittsburgh area. Big football, high school football. Rules everything there. So some great experiences there. Great coaching, great officiating. Moved to outside of Washington D.C. in Northern Virginia, and I was in the Maryland D.C. chapter there, and then moved to New Jersey about 6 years ago. So, definitely some differences between the organizations. They don't do crews down there in D.C., so you're kind of always with different folks, which I think there's good and bad with them both. I do like the crew. We have a good time together on our crew for sure, and get to kind of know how everyone is. But it was nice, especially starting out officiating. I think you got to work with so many different guys and learn a lot, that way. So I'm grateful to kind of see both ways of doing it.
Good stuff. And as Dan was mentioning, little home bias here. Dan and I are on the same crew together, so Dan and I definitely have some familiarity with each other and our styles and work. So that's definitely something that I've come to appreciate, and I think Dan is one of the better short wing officials that we have in our association. Again, a little bit biased, but I've said this to him over a beer or two also, so it's not anything that I don't think I've never mentioned to Dan. So
appreciate that.
One of the things, absolutely. So one of the things that I've talked about with we've had our umpire roundtable, and we had our white hat roundtable, and now with the short wing roundtable, I want to talk about some of the challenges that you face now on a game to game basis now being a short wing, because I'll tell you, the white hat has its own stresses with having to be the face of the crew chief, and all eyes looking at them. We talked last episode about the umpires' challenges being in the middle of the field and different things like that. And now we're working towards the sidelines. Now we're getting out of the middle of the perceived chaos to, well, basically another area of chaos of the sidelines. So, Dan, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges that you face as a short wing? And we'll start off with a mechanics question. What is one of the biggest challenges you find mechanically at being a short wing?
Yeah, there's a couple. One that comes to mind is think we've made it known we don't love the mechanic on kick returns. Three of us on the goal line. A lot of times you get a short kick. That ball could be 25, 30 yards up in front of you. You're trying to spot the ball. You're trying to see if there was a fumble. There's a couple of fumble plays in particular that I remember where, the ball is just so far away from you. So, I think maybe in theory we could move the wing officials up maybe to the 10 or something like that. I'd maybe like to see a change there. And I think that might just be New Jersey, maybe not everywhere else. But yeah, just that's one. I think some of the sideline stuff can be tricky. Ball coming at you, ball carrier coming at you, which way are you going? Quarterback rolling out, you still have the line there. You kind of got to retreat backwards, but don't want to get yourself out of position. So those are definitely ones that come to mind.
Yeah, so here in New Jersey, and I've talked about this on other episodes, we're predominantly 6-man crews, and once we get lucky and get deeper into the playoffs, we are getting that 7th person. But I know a lot of places around the country are still 5-person mechanics, so our mechanic is going to be a little bit different with who's got the line of scrimmage, different things like that. So with the 6-man mechanic, our short wings aren't moving. The line of scrimmage is their body, their home, I should say, until the ball is kind of past them. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. Yep. We hold the line. You're right. It used to be more the line judge versus head linesman, but now it's the same role. So yeah, we're staying put. So that's kind of what I was getting at. Ball coming at you type of thing. Those can be really tricky, especially some tight sidelines. You're obviously, we can talk about managing the teams and the coaches and stuff like that, but kind of controlling the paint for sure, the white paint. But all of that helps, when you have those chaotic situations coming on your sideline.
Yep, absolutely. So one of the hardest things I remember when I was a short wing is, well, I mean, pre-snap, you've got a number of things going through your mind pre-snap before the play even happens. So kind of give us a play-by-play in your mind, what you're thinking pre-snap. So the huddle breaks and you're ready to go. What are some of the things that you're focusing on at that point?
Yeah. Well, first, it's on and off the ball is a big thing. Communicating with the receivers, and I think the better the football, hopefully they're better at talking to you. Some of the maybe sub-varsity or the kids just walk up and kind of point, and they don't know if they're pointing down, punching back, whatever. So I think communicating and getting out there and talking to them and say, hey, every play I need you to let me know I'm on or off, and start that early and give some grace early on too, not trying to bang people early on, talk to them. So that's one. Formation's big, because you're going to know what which receivers you have based on the formation. We have the number 2 receiver, most of the time, 2 or 3. So it's formations is big. Just when they're coming out. So yeah, I'd say that's a big one. And then getting your eyes on your official, your partner across the field. Are they punched back? Are they not? How many guys are in the backfield? Those are all pre-snap things that you're thinking about, that are really important. So I think in officiating, one thing that I've learned early and often is communication is the key. Communicating with players, communicating with coaches, communicating with your crew. So I think you could nip a lot of these potential infractions. You can nip them in the bud if you communicate early.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the biggest things that I really loved was when that wide receiver would walk out and they would look at you on the sideline and they'd give you a thumbs up.
Right. What does that mean?
Am I good? I don't know. Where do you want to be? What do you mean, are you good?
Declare yourself. Yeah, and it's tricky too, because you don't want to be telling them move up, or move back because now the snap might be imminent. Now everyone in the buildings, everyone in the stadium sees him moving at the snap, but you caused that. So, once again, I often tell the receivers too, get out of the huddle, get out early. The guys that are walking up to the line as the quarterback's calling the count, you're just waiting for an infraction. So it could be preventative officiating by telling them these things.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about preventative officiating, and one of the big things that we've talked about, and we've started with our state meetings here in New Jersey, is just, and you mentioned it before, if the kid comes out and they declare that they're on and they give you a punch forward, but they're still a yard off the line of scrimmage, we're not going to move them up now. We're not going to say, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, they declared themselves up. You're not going to punch back with your arm, even though technically they are off the line of scrimmage. But then at the end of the play, you're going to say, yo, son, make sure you move up. You were a little deep on that one. But because I know that I did it when I was a younger official, and with the JV game, I was having a kid move up, and it happened to be on the opposite sideline, and the coach and the kid moved up. Snap happened, and the coach was flipping out. That's a false start. He was moving forward. And I'm like, coach, he declared himself on. I learned that the hard way. I had to try to explain it to the coach. Didn't like hearing it because technically the player was moving. Now it's JV or freshman. It was a sub-varsity game regardless, which in my opinion, they're teaching games. So I was teaching the kid the lesson. Well, I also got taught a lesson too. Okay, give it to them, then talk to them.
Yeah,
so
for sure. And with that, with too many men in the backfield, another thing I've learned the hard way over the years is if on the other side of the field, say you have a guy off, right? The closest to you is off. So your count, the quarterback, the obvious ones. But let's say there's a guy on the line closest to your official on the other side. So the number one receiver's on the line. The number two looks like he's back, but you don't know how your other official has declared him. So you shouldn't be throwing that flag because he might have him on the line of scrimmage covered up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So he's not, you don't know what he's declaring that guy because it's the second guy in. So he's not punching back for him. So I think that's an important one. That flag would need to come from him.
Yeah, and we always talk about it in our pregame, no Me Too flags. But yeah, that's one that you don't want to fish somebody else's pond either on that one too. So you want to make sure that you're communicating. How often are you on the O to O pre-snap? Are you at all? I know some crews are a little bit different. Some crews that I've worked in and filled in with, it's a constant conversation going on before the snap happens. How are you and your opposite wing when you're working stuff like that?
Not a lot. I think we've gotten more and more though. Certain things. I think letting them know, like if someone's covered up, is an important one, just so we all kind of know that going into the play. That's one that I've started to say sometimes. But as you know, we're not, as a crew, we're not a huge, on the radio crew, but I think that has become more and more just to get everyone on the same page. It's really you and your other wing, but yeah.
So now you've gone through all your pre-snap mechanics. Well, now you got a player that's going in motion, and now the ball snaps. What's your thought process now? And not just a plain play, but I'm giving you one where there's motion going on. So what's your thought process now?
Yeah, once again, how is it changing the formation? Is he in motion while is the motion legal, right? Has everyone got set? I think that's one to me that we've seen a lot more. There's a lot more motion happening. I think coaches are realizing the value. I mean, if I was a coach, I would have motion happening every play. I think there's such an advantage of information that you could gain from it, but I'm not. And I'm glad some of them don't, because it makes it harder on us too. But yeah, a lot of times they're not getting set, or you have a lineman that's not really realizing, he thinks him going down in his stance doesn't really matter except for when the ball's being snapped. But the reality is if he's going down in his stance and there's a guy starting in motion, well, now you have a violation unless the motion man comes to a stop. So, yeah, I think your peripheral needs to be going because when there's motion happening, you're assuming they're going to snap the ball while he's in motion. You have to assume that because you need to remember, was someone going down into their stance? Was everyone set? So those are some of the things I'm thinking about.
Now you're talking about peripheral, and I know as the short wing, this might be one of the hardest plays that you guys have to work on, but the RPO plays. So where you got a lineman potentially downfield. Now, some associations that falls into the umpire's jurisdiction. For us, being our short wings in New Jersey, are holding the line of scrimmage. The mechanic has kind of fallen more on the short wings, with the umpire now being the helper in essence, to try to give you a little bit more guidance. But now you're looking at an offensive lineman that's potentially 2 to 3 yards downfield, but you're also now peripheral and where was the quarterback when that, or where was the ball released when that lineman was at that spot. So you're looking at two different things. And now you're also focusing on, okay, the ball's thrown downfield. Let's say it's a 15-yard curl route. Well, now you got to get that catch inbounds, out of bounds if it's on the sidelines. Plus, now you're getting that spot too. So you got a lot of different things going on right there just on a simple curl route scenario that you may have going on. I don't know if they're going to run a 15-yard route on an RPO type of scenario, but you still got a lot of things going on. So that is where I feel that being the short wing may be the most difficult task because your focus is not just in your zone, but your zone is much wider than everybody else's zone, in my opinion.
Yeah, and all fair points. I think one of the most important things there is the way you work with your offside official. Head linesman, line judge working together, where the person whose side that play is going to can't do it all. You need the help of the offside official, especially with the lineman. I think that call should be coming from that official on the opposite side. If the ball's thrown to my side, I would think the offside official will be the one giving the lineman most of the time. It's not everyone's doing their part there, but like you said, your eyes are going to then have to get on the guy that catches the ball, spot the ball. Chains might be on your side. There's a lot going on. So absolutely. I mean, I think your keys are important, but like on an RPO, those keys aren't great, right? Like the tackle's not giving you much if they're doing it right. You don't know for sure. They don't know whether it's run past, hence RPO, yep. Right? So, yeah, that's certainly a difficult play. We see more and more of it. But I think the key to that is not necessarily you doing more, but the offside official not taking that play off. And you mentioned the lineman too, when the ball's released. Visually, for a lineman to be ineligible downfield, when that ball gets to him and he's at 4 yards, well, he might not have been at 4 yards when the ball is thrown. So, and people don't realize it, but visually, to everyone in the stadium, they see a ball hitting the ground, and then they're seeing a lineman at 4 yards, but that's not when it's a violation or a penalty. So I think those things are important, and that's the teamwork you gotta have going with the two short wings.
Yeah, and that puts a big emphasis on something that I know we've talked about, and just the team aspect and being able to work together. And one of the things that I really do love about working here in New Jersey is the crew fact, because I know you and our opposite side official. And we have two people that kind of fill in that. We have one official who works a lot of college games too, so sometimes he might not be there. but we still have a good, or you guys still have a good rapport with each other across the way of working with each other and understanding. Because not only do you have that aspect, but now if it's not an RPO, if it's the quarterback, say, rolling your way, well, for your safety, you're kind of backing off the sideline. You're given more because that play now, if that quarterback decides to tuck the ball and run, well, you need to kind of clear your body out of the way and clear that out. Also now, all right, they're rolling out your way, but now they get sacked. Who's got that spot? So now there's a lot of different things going on, and
Yeah.
being that offside official is not a playoff for you. And you guys have done a great job of understanding that and helping each other out with that soft spot scenario.
Yeah. And the hardest one, I think, that you even left out is the quarterback rolls to your side, you retreat, up the field, let him go by you, and now he throws the ball near or at the line of scrimmage or past it. You don't have that great angle that you're used to having, but that offside official should still be on his line, straight down the line, knowing whether he was past the line of scrimmage or not. So I think that one's important as well.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So you brought it up of allowing the ball to clear you and allowing the ball to pass you. You got a running back now. We'll go easy handoff type scenario. Running back breaks through the line of scrimmage and he's gone for 65 yards or whatnot. You got that spot still. Now, I'm an umpire. I'm old. I'm slow. I got bad knees. I don't have that spot. You do. So what do you do in that scenario now? How are you getting a good spot?
Yeah. Got to stay in good shape, Mike. You got to be able to keep up with them. No, I think that's where your deep official, a great mechanic is for the deep official to be near that spot, not take it, which a lot of them are tempted to do, but just yelling out a yard line to you, yelling out a yard as you're coming. No one else is near you. The teams aren't even near you. It's a long run. There's no one there. It's you and that official and maybe the ball carrier and the guy that tackled him, right? So him yelling out 23-yard line, 23-yard line, you square that off, come up, kill it. It looks great. It looks like you knew exactly where he was. It's definitive. So that's the key to that play, I think.
And now me as an umpire, now I'm spotting the ball after getting the spot from you. I'm going to talk a little cheat mechanic here. I'm putting that ball on a tick. Because on that long run, it's not going to the 22.5-yard line. It's going to go to the 23 or it's going to go to the 22. And we're going to make it a little bit easier on us because at that point in time, that 8 inches, 12 inches, whatever it may be, isn't really making a difference. They got the first down already in that scenario, typically. And understanding and knowing what the situation is going to make a huge difference in that aspect.
For sure. And it looks, I think us included, that deep official is not going to call out 22.5. He's going to say 20. Everyone's on the same page. He's going to know this is going to be on a tick. So he's saying 22, 23, whatever that is. We're taking that and rolling with it. So, yeah, agreed. Yep. You get closer inside the 10. I think you're, inside the 20, inside the 10. That's where we're going to probably have a conversation about, 2.5 yards.
Yep. Yeah. And for the people out there that don't understand too, when we're getting that help from that deep official is also their number one priority is the goal line. So they're staying deep. They can't get beat deep. So they're backpedaling. They're getting themselves to that goal line. But we talk about triangulating and keeping everything in front of us. So that deep official can see where the runner went down while still being 20 yards away, because they tend not to have the chaos in front of them that the umpires, the short wings have with all the linemen and all the blocks going there. They kind of have a little bit more of a clearer view from back there. So although they're not coming up to get the spot, they can see where that person went down. And this is where I think the O-to-O really does come in handy here in a scenario like that. So they don't even have to yell it out. If they're just on the O-to-O, 23, well, now we know what's going on and where to go with it. So,
Yeah.
So Dan was talking earlier, and I'm going to share my screen here of a play that happened in a game that Dan was actually filling in, as we do here in the short chapter. So we're going to pull up to a Twitter feed here from a Thanksgiving Day game that Dan got to work. So Dan, you want to talk us through what we're looking at here?
Yeah. So this was the end of the game. Tight game. It was I think under a touchdown, 6-point game. I want to say 5-point game, something like that. And the blue team's coming at us. They fumble the snap. There's about a minute and a half left. So this is a huge fumble. They were running the clock out, and I'm on the right of our screen here on the white sideline, and came running in. I knew it was a fumble. Came running in. Couldn't see anything. Next thing I know, White's running down my sideline with the ball. So, I have no whistle because I couldn't see. And then there was a late whistle from the umpire. And quite frankly, it was a crew saving call because I was completely blocked out. But White did recover the fumble in the behind their defensive tackle, the linebacker, I believe, recovered it. The ball trickled through to the defense, but he went down on a knee to pick it up. So this one just emphasizes like you're gonna be blocked out as a wing official, and you need help. Whether that's your umpire, whether that's a deep guy, whether it's your other wing. But this one, this was a crew saving call. The game would have completely flipped, and it would have been an incorrect call had I let it play out the way I saw it.
All right, so let's let this one roll through.
Yeah, so I know that happened quickly, but if you maybe let it roll and then pause it, right there, they pick the ball up from their knee. So that White right there, yeah. So, but I can't see that. I'm blocked out. So, it's just a good example. I remember we had one a few years ago, Mike, in state semifinal game where the wing official opposite me was completely blocked out. Didn't know if the guy was down or not. Let it run. He was down. I saw him from 50 yards across the field, his knee go down. So I had to come running in on that one and kill it. It didn't look great. The coaches didn't love it, but if you you got to do that. And that was a big one. That was fourth quarter of a state semifinal game, I believe.
Yeah, and ultimately, even sometimes if it doesn't look so good, ultimately you got to correct. And like you said before, that was a crew saving whistle by the umpire in that scenario. And for the listeners that are out there, that game was a Thanksgiving game that's been going on, gosh, close to 100 years now. It's one of the biggest rivalries in our state here. And it was Thanksgiving morning, and it was an absolute monsoon. It was just disgusting out, and the field was horrendous. But they're playing that game. Like that game is going on in those two towns. They're neighboring towns. So it was just how that one played out. One team could have been 10-0 and the other team 0-10. That is their Super Bowl. It's that big of a game in our area. So the fact that, all right, you ultimately got it right, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we have that sometimes as, talking about some of the weaknesses of our 6-man mechanics. One of them is the middle of the field, of course, right? That tight end catches an in route in the middle of the field. Typically that's the wing official that has that guy, and we're 40 yards away from the play. So to know whether he caught it, whether he's down, with a lot of things, we don't have the best angle. So that umpire having a head on a swivel and spinning around to that is crucial, because you're you might be a few feet away from him. So I think that's another good example of when the umpire could bail out the wing.
Yeah, absolutely. So another scenario and another challenge of your position now is, well, you're on the sidelines. You got coaches in your ears, you got players there, and now all of a sudden you got an opposing player runs out of bounds and maybe gets popped in bounds, but right near that sideline and isn't too happy. You now got the whole scrum going on the benches and different things like that. How do you handle? Well, first of all, what do you do in that mechanic? What's going through your mind in that scenario? Because ultimately you still got to get that spot too. So, what are you looking for in that scenario?
Yeah, getting to that spot quickly, knowing that knowing what's about to happen. He's going into the opposing sideline, perhaps, and getting there quickly. Having facing the out of bounds is the most important part of that mechanic, so that you're looking at them. You're not facing the field. You're facing the bleachers. To get your eyes on, utilizing your beanbag to, if you need to save that spot, know where you're at, dropping a beanbag. Hopefully your deep guy is hauling to get to you and help out to clean it up. But yeah, getting up and using your voice. I think that's one thing that I've been taught over the years is your voice can really be utilized to be preventative from things like that happening. So, up easy, everyone off, out of here, whatever you're saying, you're clearing out. But yeah, that happens quickly. And sometimes those guys on the sideline want to get their little shot in, and they think they can do it in the cover of bodies there. So keeping an eye out for that it is important, but those are tricky, and once again, having the team's back on your sideline helps, because, maybe he falls on the ground instead of into bodies if you have him back far enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we had a scenario this year where we're kind of got a little chaotic, but going back on film and looking at it, we had the spot. You got the spot. I was in on the sideline helping you out and clearing bodies out. Our deep wing was coming down, and our white hat was in the mix too. So we had 4 officials using our voices, using our whistles, and ultimately we got the spot. We got the late hit penalty that was necessary in this particular scenario, and we got it right. Ultimately, we got it right,
Yeah.
and it was on the verge. It could have been something that was a bang bang all of a sudden, and now we got true huge chaos going on. But because you were there, we got the spot. Our offside official was holding the spot. He saw the beanbag. He was holding the spot. Our deep wing on the opposite side was coming to the middle of the field. He was off ball officiating and checking out anything going on in the middle of the field. And now we had 4 sets of eyes in the scrum cleaning it all up. So ultimately, we got it right. And I think that's something that's a testament to our crew working well together and knowing where each other is going to be and having each other's back. So I think that's one of the major benefits that we do have, again, as being in that crew scenario. So what are your thoughts with that?
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing I'll add is the opposite side, where the other team, when it gets a little chaotic on one side, is there's temptation for those players to come off the bench. Our offside officials did a great job of keeping that sideline back, when little scrum happens. But yeah, like you said, everyone knowing, I'll pay homage to a guy, 50-year plus official I worked with down in DC named Rick Carpenti, which he's a legend. But he used to say to the deep guys, don't just stand there and collect your game fees, hauling in. He would always be on that point. So I think that's crucial, is, they're 25 yards downfield, having that cushion, but then it's a full sprint, into that sideline area to help out.
Yeah. And that now will fall into the lap of, if it's a 5-person mechanic, now that back judge, and that back judge playing center field and now first base using baseball analysis. They're sprinting in from center field to get down to that corner area to help clean it all up and to have your back in that scenario. It's a major thing, and those are the little things that a lot of people don't see and understand of what's going on and what makes a good crew work well together. And I think that's why we've had the ability and to work bigger games and to help each other out. But also, I love talking about our crew and talking about I'm trying to think of the right way to say it, but the lack of ego and the fact that we'll go out afterwards and we'll sit at the bar or the restaurant and we'll say, Dan, what the hell did you have on that play? Or Mike, I disagree with that call. And we'll talk it out and work on getting better. And then come Sunday or Monday, whenever we get the film, we're looking at the film and we're texting with each other about, okay, hey, Dan, you did have that one right. And my bad, I was wrong on that one. So we do have the ability to talk it out and we kind of leave our egos aside. So I think that's another great dynamic of the crew aspect. So for the other states that are out there, it helps having a set crew is
Yeah,
basically what I'm trying to say.
it does. You need the amount of officials to have the crews. That's some of the reasons some of the states don't, is
Absolutely.
lacking officials. So we all are trying to recruit, right? But yeah, I agree with you, and I think the big point there is there's always 2 or 3 plays in a game that are, interesting plays to review and debate and whatever, learn from. And it's so easy to just move on. Maybe it's a blowout game, move on to the next game or something like that. But that's not helpful. So I do think it's important to get to the bottom, to determine, I was right, wrong, indifferent, whatever your thoughts were, but kind of know and learn and move on from it.
So now let's talk a little bit. We were talking about your sideline mechanics and things like that. How do you go about dealing with coaches? Because you're the one who's got the brunt of it. And I laugh about that commercial where the guy has a coach screaming in his ear the whole time. Then he goes home and he has his wife screaming in his ear, and he's able to tune it out. I forget I don't even know what the heck it's commercial for. But um, how are you dealing with the coaches and with the sidelines, both on a positive and negative side? Because there's a lot of really great sidelines that are out there.
For sure, for sure. And I've tried to emphasize to some, youth programs and stuff like that, my experience as a sideline official, the correlation between how the sideline is and how good the team is. I mean, I would love to do a study on that, but that correlation it's amazing. The sideline where all the toes of the players are on the same line, back far enough. There's one coach communicating with the officials, not every assistant. I bet you that team's going to be pretty good. The one that's complete chaos. Everyone's yelling, screaming. There's no order. You're pushing them back the whole time. There's no get back coach. There's probably not going to be too good. That's not important to us, but I think it's just something to think about and note. And I bet you most would agree with that. But yeah, to answer your question, I think it's, letting the coaches know, who you are before that half, keeping it professional, finding that balance, not talking too much to them, not being, in the middle, buddy or anything like that, keeping it professional, letting them know they can communicate with you, especially the head coach, and not having an ego, not letting things bother you. I mean, there's almost nothing a coach is going to say that's going to, bother me that much. Honestly, it's when you're ignoring a lot. If they're asking you a direct question, I think you can respond and answer that direct question that they're asking you. But you don't have to hear everything. You don't have to hear everything they're saying, and it shouldn't matter to you. You have a job to do, and it's you know the rules, and I like leaning on our knowledge of the rules. To be the thing. we talked about this previously, but you and I did, that sometimes you could say things, the coaches, they're playing a game with you at some point, right? They're baiting you into saying something. They're baiting you into throwing your fellow officials under the bus, maybe, or whatever it is. So you really need to be thoughtful of your words, and not say too much, not ignore the coaches either completely. So I think you need to, maybe that's why there's so many lawyers in the NFL as officials, right? They're very lawyerly. They think through what they're saying, but yeah, you got to know that these coaches, a lot of times they want you to engage when they're going crazy. They want you to engage, and they want to use your words against you. So know that going in.
Yeah, very much so. And a tip for a lot of people that are out there, especially the younger officials, if you have to talk to a coach, have your mic open or have another official there with you so that it doesn't turn into a one-on-one battle with another official, or just keeping the lines of communication open so that they can't bait you into it. I know at the upper levels, having that open microphone on is something that is key so that they're all communicating with each other and they're hearing what's going on. But we talk, I know me and the crew chief, anytime that the white hat has to go and talk to a coach, I'm usually right there with them. Just a second set of eyes, second set of ears to understand what's going on. And we try to talk to our wings about that. But there are a lot of times you're having one-on-one conversations with the coaches just because of your proximity with it. And there's times where I'm relaying to you over the O2O, hey, Dan, let the coach know I've talked to 58 about holding a number of times. Next time we're going to have to bang them and things like that. So those are the communication aspects that we want to happen. But like you said, keep it short, keep it professional. Don't just go into idle conversation with them because they're going to try to get you off your game if they can. And some of them are good at it.
Yeah. Skilled. Exactly. So I think that's well said. And yeah, it's a good point going with another official to have those conversations. I mean, the thing that I lean on, and I'd say one of the reasons I got into officiating is, high school football was so important to me in my life, and just such a great experience. And we put so much time and effort into it. And how much time and effort these players and coaches put into it. So that's why, they're amped up, these aren't things they'd be saying to you if you were, walking down the street with them. It's football. It's, the energy's there. So you got to just let it roll, don't take it personally. But my point to that is, the reason I got into officiating is you want them to settle the game on the field. It's not about you. It's not about, no one's there to watch the officials. It's about the players and the coaches. And I know,
What are you
Mike,
talking about? No.
But I think that's a point that I think you'd be well served if all the officials had that mentality. And I think that's why you let them play as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm not hearing it so much from the coaches in the middle of the field. I'm hearing it from the players more often than you are. But not only do you also get it from the coaches, you're also the closest proximity to the fans, which, excuse me, we know some of the coaches, and this is not a knock on the coaches, but we know some of the coaches don't typically know all of the intricacies of the rules. Well, the moms and dads that watch the NFL games on Sunday, they think their game is an NFL game, and they truly don't understand the intricacies of the game. So you're closest one hearing it from the crowd too. So you got to deal with all that stuff.
For sure. And my favorite one on that topic was, back when intentional grounding, Federation changed that a couple of years ago, but quarterback would roll out, would be outside the pocket, the sideline, toss the ball into the crowd, and coach would be yelling, we'd have intentional grounding, and he'd say, he's outside the pocket. You're right, coach, but that's not a Federation rule. So, once again, leaning on the rule book and knowing that. But yeah, there's a lot of assistant coaches that they're not going to clinics. They're, they're volunteers. They're showing up maybe for a couple practices and a game, and they're sometimes the most heated ones, and they really don't know the rules, and that's okay. But once again, you don't need to be engaging everyone about everything that they say. That, yeah, because a lot of the time it's not incorrect. So, and there's times where you and I have had this where a coach is saying something, and he's going to come up to you at the next timeout or something about it. So we'll check with each other and make sure we're on the right, the same page, and that we're correct on our ruling, because you don't want to walk up and be wrong on that either. So I think that's another important thing during those timeouts. You'll see us coming in and maybe having a quick chat, and oftentimes it's about how many timeouts each team has, but other times it's checking ourselves on a rule or a ruling or something like that.
100%, absolutely. And like I said, I think we do a great job of checking our egos out and leaving those packed away in the car until we get home. But I think we do our lines of communication as a group, even working with other crews and filling in. I know that I feel comfortable that I can go up. If I'm confident about something, I'm going to go up and I'm going to say, "Hey, look, this is what I had." And sometimes you got to fight for your call, or sometimes you got to get checked yourself and be like, "No, Dan, you were wrong on that. No, Mike, you missed that one." And accept it and understand and learn from it.
Right. And I think it's important. There's certain people that don't like losing arguments. I'm probably included in that. But I think it's different in this atmosphere of officiating football, because sometimes losing an argument is the right call, right? And that's what you ultimately want. So if your crewmates are more confident than you, you gotta let that go. But when you're confident, you gotta speak up. So, I'd say over the years, there's a couple I regret not speaking up on. And I think most of the time when I've thought about speaking up, it was because I was so sure of it,
So Dan, I want to ask you one more question. We're getting close to that time of saying goodbye, but I know we've had conversations and we've done things as a crew where we've all come together and we've had conversations where there's been a flag on the ground and we've talked about it. And I know that the crowd hates it and they're all like, "What the hell are they doing?" They're making dinner plans or something like that. But when we're discussing a particular play and you have one point of view, and I'll use myself, I have a different point of view, and we go back and forth, and eventually it goes to my call, not your call. Now you got to go to the sideline of the offended team, and they're asking you, "What the hell happened? How come that call happened?" How are you dealing with the coach in that scenario where in the back of your mind, you kind of agree with that coach, but you're got your crew here that's going with a different way? What's the way that you're handling that?
Yeah. That's a tough one. That's where your middle of the field is a nice place to be, isn't it? Yeah, it's difficult, but I think letting them know, like, "Coach, multiple other officials had a better angle than me." Just talking through it that way, and what he's gonna say back to you. He's gonna say, "Oh, that you're getting pushed around and you're, not confident in your call," or something like that. But I think it's, like you said before, it's the humbleness to be able to get it right. "Coach, after we discussed this, several other people had a better view. They saw this, that there was no whatever flag on the play," or something
Yep.
like that. And you'll hear about it and step onto the field, and normally they're moving on to the next play. And if not, they're going to yell. That's fine too. But yeah, I think you earn some of the coaches. It took me a while to realize this, but it really is a game to them. Some have a strategy of the way they work the officials, and that's part of the game, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to know that from our side of it, and half the stuff, I don't want to say that, maybe not half, but a lot of the stuff that's being said, they know is not correct, but they're working you for that next call. And you can't look at it that way. You got to be looking at the game blindly and just looking at what's right and what's wrong on the next play, not because they're in your ear or something like that. So, and if you think through that, if you let them do that, you're just promoting more of that in your ear, so even more reason to not let that affect you.
Yeah, I think a good defensive line coach is going to scream and yell basically on every single snap that his defensive lineman is being held, just to see what they can possibly buy in that scenario. A lot of them do believe that the kids are being held on every single play, but there's still the little bit of gamemanship that's going on in that scenario. They're trying to work the system the best they can.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's why you're seeing a lot of these former NFL officials being hired by the teams, because they know what kind of works a little bit. They know things to teach. You talked about holding. If that defender doesn't turn and run, then it's probably not holding, right? Like if he's staying in tight, but if he turns and runs, and now you see that separation with the jersey, now you have holding. So sometimes the difference of holding and not holding is the way that those players are coached to get that call. And I think that's why you're seeing more and more officials being utilized on coaching staffs.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, Dan, I want to thank you once again for taking the time. Unfortunately, I did get a couple of messages while you and I were talking with the other two guests that were going to jump on with us, but schedule-wise, unfortunately, as with all of us that are here, life sometimes gets in the way, and they were unable to join us. So our round table kind of just turned into a small little cafe table here of just you and I. But once again, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy weekend here and jumping on with us. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Dan McKenna coming to us from the Shore chapter. Again, a little biased here. Dan and I are on the same crew together, so we have a pretty good working relationship. And I've been working Dan to try to get him on the show for quite a while now, but finally broke him. Yes, I win.
No, I'm glad. Thanks for having me. It was fun. Enjoy it, and good luck to you, Mike.
Once again, appreciate it. Again, anybody out there, any questions, feel free to reach out to me, Mike D, the referee at gmail.com. We're here for you. And I look forward to our next episode where I'm going to have a couple deep wings on and talking about the games going on in the back of the field, the back of the defensive backfield, and all those fun things. So once again, hit those like buttons, hit those subscribe buttons, and I will see you all next time. Have a good day, everyone.